Since you raised the issue of raising money, and obviously you're reliant on that in the system in which you toil, how do you feel about the way that the system now works in the sense that fundraising is such an important part of it? You have the Supreme Court giving a certain amount of power to corporations that was not given to them in the past. Does that make it more difficult for a candidate like you that isn't working through the system the same way as other candidates might?
Probably, but I don't know how important it is. You know, the president says he'll raise $1 billion. So money's big stuff. But there's a limit. I look at it on the more positive side. There's been some very wealthy individuals who self-financed, and they may win, but they might not get reelected, and sometimes they don't win. So money isn't the only issue. So I think that. You know, the funds are obviously very important, but I don't think this is an invitation to say that we have to limit this. I believe in freedom of people to spend their money. The problem isn't, you know, a lot of people say it's the money that's driving it. No, it's the power in the government to control our lives and the economy and pass out favors. And besides, if you have individuals that might resist the temptation to accept it. They don't donate my money to me, and the lobbyists don't even come to see me. And that's quite a bit different. So I don't think money is pretty darn important, but I don't think it's the final answer. And, of course, we have to prove ourselves.
So we have a student from the University of Tampa who asked the question, why is it, and obviously we're assuming he's right by posing the question, or he is, why is it that you receive more donations from military members than any other candidate? Is that true, first of all?
That is absolutely true. And I did mention it in the talk. I said that I got, I think I did, I got twice, we don't know about this quarter, but so far, I've gotten more than twice as much money from active military duty than all the other Republican candidates put together. So that should be a message. Also, more than Obama got. He's the commander-in-chief. But it tells me one thing. The young people, the military people, they're sick and tired of the war. They want to come home. That's the message I'm getting. Every single day, those numbers are growing of the fruitlessness of this war. And it is up to us, the people, to look at this as a moral issue and a constitutional issue. If we looked at this as a moral issue, a monetary issue, and a constitutional issue, we wouldn't have lost one soldier over there. And it's just endless. It's on and on and on. And it's because we break the rules. If we were more restrained, matter of fact, before we went into Iraq, I'm on international relations, I made them vote on a declaration of war. I said, I'm not going to vote for this, but if you want to go to war, you go to war and vote for it. Be up front. Oh, no, we don't want to do this. We want to just give the president the authority to make up his own mind. And that, of course, is the example of the loss of the Republic and delivering one of the reasons we fought our revolution and why the founders explicitly said the president can't go to war this way. And look at where we've been. Look at where we've been. I was in the military for 5 years during the 1960s. And that war wasn't declared. Korea wasn't declared. We don't even care about national sovereignty. We go to war under the UN banner and NATO, and now the president doesn't even tell us. He goes and starts another war in Libya, and he doesn't even mention it to us, and we have to dig it out. And what is so discouraging is the lackadaisical attitude about the people. But that is what I'm hoping to change, and quite frankly, I think we are changing that. I think there are some polls that show now that a definite majority of the American people say enough is enough, it's time to come home.
So and along those lines, you recently suggested that the killing of the suspected terrorist in Yemen could be an impeachable offense. And this is after, I believe, you seemed to agree earlier with the suggestion that U.S. military involvement in Libya was also along those lines. If that's indeed the case, and you're saying the American people should have the courage of their convictions that they may or may not have, why not then go ahead and draw up the articles of impeachment?
Well, I'd have to do it for every president I've ever seen around here because they haven't followed the Constitution, and it's a practical matter. I mean, there's not going to be an endorsement. Nothing's going to happen. And they were asking me whether that was an impeachable offense, and it is. I mean, just ignoring the Fifth Amendment and assassinating American citizens without due process, and won't even tell us what the rules are. Oh, but he's a threat. Can you imagine being put on a list because you're a threat? What's going to happen when they come to the media? What if the media becomes a threat? Or a professor becomes a threat? Someday that could well happen. This is the way it works. It's incrementalism. Oh, you know, fear-mongering. This never would happen in America. It's slipping and sliding, let me tell you. So I would say that we shouldn't do this with totally ignoring this. We better pay attention to it.
But I'm not sure you answered the question other than to say you would have had to do it for every president. If indeed you believe that's the case, why not go ahead and press the case?
I don't think it accomplishes anything because the sentiment is not there. So I don't think that would, be achievable. I think it's more important that we educate the people to understand how offensive it is. And if there is a consensus, then that will come along. And I'd probably have a coalition of people that would agree with that. A lot of people now are having second thoughts about that assassination. But this was an announced policy in February of 2010 by Dennis Blair, and he used the word assassination. Sometimes on the media they'll say, oh, Ron Paul says he was assassinated. Where did he come up with that word? From Dennis Blair, who said that that is now our policy. And just think of the list we already have at the airport. You are a potential terrorist by going through the airport because they can violate all your civil liberties. And they can put you on these lists. How do you get your name off a list if you're a threat? Thousands and thousands of people are on these lists. And like I tried to demonstrate in my talk, we are not safer for it. We're broke and we're in greater danger. And this whole idea, Robert Pape is somebody I've read and studied along with Michael Schur. Schur was the CIA agent. His main job was to trail and deal with Osama bin Laden. Robert Pape, he is the expert on suicide terrorism. And he says the number one reason on every suicide terrorist attack that he has studied, the number one reason why somebody would do it is occupation. So we go into in various countries. We go in, we invade a country, people get killed, and then they shoot back, and they're all terrorists. And therefore, we have to expand our war to go after those who are trying to kill us because we're occupying their land. I don't know why we can't think about a foreign policy of goodwill, of treating people how you would want to be treated. The golden rule could apply. Just think of anything that we have ever done in any country of the world in the last 10 or 15 years, if any country would have ever done it to us. What if in the next 10 years we get a lot poorer and China gets a lot richer? And they started drone attacks on us? Oh, yeah, there's an enemy. We got to get him. He's an enemy of the people. We can't allow that to happen. And this is what is going on today. There is a transition away from protecting personal liberties. And I want to protect these liberties. I don't want prior restraint on the media, certainly, but I don't want prior restraints on you as an individual. Why can't we apply this whole principle of prior restraint, this censorship of the media? We respect that, but we ought to do that for all individuals rather than saying, oh, he's a threat, he's a terrorist, but we don't have to tell you why we put him on the terrorist list. Well, if they have a reason, tell us. Have a trial. I mean, we tried Adolf Eichmann. I mean, the Israelis tried Eichmann. And just think of his monster. All the Nazi criminals were tried. They were taken to court and then executed. There are quite a few examples like that. McVeigh is another one. Oh, everybody knew he did it. But the reason we do this is because we want to protect the rule of law for ourselves, not for the. It's sort of like you protect First Amendment rights to protect the right to say controversial things, not to talk about the weather. You know, and that's why you have to protect the courts, not because they're the bad people. We're not protecting it for them. We're protecting it so that it doesn't get out of hand, and it is a crucial matter.
So when you talk about the cause of terrorism being the occupation of other lands, how did that fit into what happened on 9/11?
Read Michael Schur and Robert Pape. They give you the clear.
Just break it down for us for 20 seconds.
20 seconds. It is the fact that the explained reason for hitting us on 9/11 were military bases in Saudi Arabia. There was one. Like I said, 9/11 Commission conceded that. CIA conceded that. They all said that the constant bombing and the killing of many innocent people in Iraq for over 10 years, which was challenged on TV, national TV, to Madeleine Albright, and she acknowledged, yes, probably 500,000 died, but that's the price you have to pay. And those are the reasons that they gave for doing it. And it is very real. Another good example of this is, and what he points out so clearly, is when the occupation stops, the terrorist attacks stop. Lebanon is a perfect example. We went into Lebanon in the early 80s, and we were seen as occupiers. We were attacked, and 241 of our Marines were killed by suicide terrorists. Eventually, we left soon after that. The French left and the Israelis left. There was no more suicide terrorism. It just stopped like that. And the interesting thing is, this is worth looking into, when Reagan wrote his memoirs, he said that he would never turn tail and run, but he did, because he had not realized the irrationality of the politics in that region. And he said if he had been more neutral, followed the policy of neutrality, those Marines would still be alive. And that took a lot of courage for Reagan to write that and admit the shortcomings in his foreign policy at that time.
Okay, Congressman, we're almost out of time. Before we get to the last question, a couple of housekeeping matters we like to take care of. A reminder about upcoming luncheons. On October 13th, Secretary Ray LaHood with the U.S. Department of Transportation. On October 19th, Natalie Cole will talk about the American Liver Foundation's public health initiative called Tune In to Hep C. Harvey Levin from TMZ will be here October 24th to talk about the changing landscape in entertainment coverage. And on October 31st, one of your opponents, Herman Cain, candidate for the Republican presidential nomination, will join us. He'll be followed November 3rd by Tom Brokaw and November 9th by William Shatner. Now, before we do get to the last question, we'd like to present you, Congressman, with our small thank you gift, and that is the traditional NPC coffee mug. Thank you very much for being here today. Here's our last question. Of course, your son is a U.S. Senator, and since the Senate is considered the upper chamber, how is his world on the Hill different and perhaps even better than yours?
Well, it reminds me of a little story, because the first day we were sworn in together, we were on the same TV program, and they were sort of poking a little fun at me. How do you feel that your son now is in the Senate and you're in the House? And I said, well, I've already told him, I said that if he does a real good job as a senator, that he eventually might be able to get a seat in the House of Representatives.
How about a round of applause for our guest speaker today? Thank you, Congressman. Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming here today. I'd also like to thank our National Press Club staff, including our library and broadcast center staffers, for helping to organize today's event. And a reminder that you can find more information about the National Press Club on our website. If you'd like to get a copy of today's program, you can check that out at www.press.org. And I'll reach for the gavel and say thank you, and we're adjourned.